Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of CrowCast Tuesday Night Live. We got there in the end. Just a minor hassle with some computer settings. We're all working from home, and my computer's been working overtime. So apologies for the delay, but we're back now. And joining me tonight is Peter. How you going, Pete?
I'm good, mate. How you going?
Oh, I'm all right now. Just a little
struggling there for a little while, but you're okay now.
Just a little panic, but we're all good. It's okay. Never mind.
Well, we're all becoming techies now, aren't we?
Oh, well, yeah.
We're all becoming techies. The whole world is just Zoom's in my house now. I never knew what that was until the other day. Now everyone's Zooming everywhere. It's like Zoom,
that's
everything's
right.
Zoom.
Well, see, and because I'm a contrary bloke and I was the silly bloke who knows computers at work, so I had to set up our online meetings and all that. I didn't use Zoom. I'm using GoToMeeting instead, which I think is actually owned by the same bloody company. Everything goes through that LogMeIn thing. But anyway.
Always one step ahead, mate.
Look, thanks, Vardy and Razor and everyone else for joining us on the various platforms. Don't forget you can chat to us live via our Discord channel. If you're a member of Discord, hop on into the live show chat. If you're wanting to chat but you're not on Discord, you can go to our website, aflcrowcast.com, click on the live chat tab, click on the Discord thingy there, put in a name and join us that way, and that'll be fine. You won't need an account at all. Or else you can obviously chat to us through Facebook and YouTube as well. Anyone chatting to us on Spreaker is probably going to feel a bit lonely because, DSG's there and PJ Crow's there. I better keep watching it just in case. But look, mate, there's been a bit going on, a few developments over the last week or so. What'd you make of it all?
Oh, look, I was happy to see that the players finally resolved their dispute with the AFL just in relation to their pay. That was good to get that out of the way. I thought that they did a reasonable amount of damage to their reputation. I think that, look, they had contracts and that's all well and good. But under the circumstances, I thought it was a bit unsightly and a bit unseemly to be arguing in the way that they were. But anyway, it's been done. I think that Gillon McLachlan taking the big pay cut probably helped a bit as well. So in the end, they all, as I saw someone say, at the end of the day, in the kind of circumstances that we're in, to get it over the line in 6 days was, probably the problem is, Fan. A day in our lives at the moment is just massive, isn't it?
Oh,
you just don't from 9 o'clock till 6 o'clock. There's just so much happens now. You think, it was 14 days ago that the Fringe was still up and running, and
that's
right. It just seems like an eternity. And so 6 days is in normal speak is a pretty good effort, but in today's life that we're living, it was an eternity. So anyway, congratulations, it was done. What was your thoughts on that?
Oh, look, very much the same. I wasn't overly impressed with some of the sentiment coming out of the players' camp with regards to uncertainty, given that we're all facing uncertainty. It probably turned out for the best. Obviously, it's up for review. Sorry, that was my phone. It's obviously up for review in a couple of months to see how things go. And yesterday's announcement regarding the JobKeeper benefit from the government certainly feeds into that. I think I saw a figure that the players and support staff, etc., obviously qualify for that. And it could potentially feed up to $13 million worth of benefits into the AFL system, either through player payments or support staff payments. So, I guess because everything's moved so fast, I mean, had they obviously waited a week, then the negotiations would have been completely different. And I dare say they might rejig the negotiations as a consequence of that announcement. But we've lost a lot of people. I mean, we've already had Paul Thomas come out and say that he's left the Crows and not coming back. That's a big loss. Paul Thomas has been with the club for a long time and he's done a lot of good work, and if we can't get him back, then that's a bit of a loss, and I dare say there'll be a few others.
Oh yeah, and look, if you look to the semi-professional level, specifically the SANFL. I mean, some massive problems there. And I know a good friend of mine working at the SANFL has already lost his job and was involved in junior coaching in an SANFL club, and that's gone.
Yeah.
1 minute, you're living the dream, and the next minute it just was completely shattered.
You cooked.
And yeah, absolutely cooked. And I see Centrals have set up a GoFundMe page. There is a lot of pain out there for the SANFL. I'm just not quite sure how they're going to get on, because your local clubs, your local level amateur clubs, well, they're going to survive because they run on volunteers anyway, and we're all going to go back there and they'll manage, But geez, the SNFL clubs that are semi-professional, I'm just not quite sure how things are going to turn out for those guys.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of their funding comes from the SMA, and of course the SMA are losing money hand over fist. So the revenue there is dried up, and you wouldn't imagine that they would have the same lending power as the AFL. Now, I would, what's his name? Gorda came out today, the chairman of the AFL commission, and has basically guaranteed the future of the AFL and the AFLW and all the AFL clubs, etc., and all the feeder leagues and all that. So I would imagine that the SANFL and the feeder channels would be really reliant upon the AFL system now to get them up and running.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about that. Fian, I just quickly look. Really good to see a couple of our old regulars joining us in the Discord chat there, and I see Hori's just joined us. PJ Crows. So great to see a few of you guys. Razor Ray, great to see you, and obviously Barney Magic as well. So good to see you making the trip in.
Yep, absolutely. DSG's having a few problems. DSG, if you're going in via the website, just click on the little 3-bar button and go down to live show chat, and that'll join you in, mate. I think you're in one of the other non-chat channels. Look, so we've got Gillen come out and basically guaranteed the future of all eight clubs, 18 clubs.
Freudian slip there, mate.
Yeah. Well, I guess a lot of us saw it as perhaps an opportunity for some rationalisation. But I never thought that the AFL would abandon any clubs. It would have been a bad look. It would have smacked of opportunism. There would have been a fair amount of backlash from the 9 North Melbourne fans, if they got swallowed up. So I guess, they're committed to the 18-team competition and the 14-team women's competition. It's going to take a lot of getting going again, though.
Yeah, and don't forget the TV obligations as well. The 9 games across the weekend that they'll be locked into. So whilst I was the same as you, I think I had the thought that this was an ideal opportunity to look at some rationalisation. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to come up with 9 games. Yeah,
and that's the big deal.
And that is the big deal. There was some talk about, didn't Caroline Wilson come out for some talk about this thing about relocating North Melbourne to Tasmania? That came up again today or yesterday, didn't it?
Yeah,
very unusual.
I just don't see that being viable. I don't think either of the AFL clubs that have been playing games down in Tassie have really been embraced. I think the game of AFL has been embraced in Tassie, as we all knew it would, because they're a footballing state. But I just can't see them adopting an existing club. I think they're very committed to having their own representative club in Tasmania, and so they should. And I just, whether it's just throwing a few things out there by Caro and seeing what sticks or not, I don't know. But I just can't see Tasmanians embracing a North Melbourne or whoever and making them their own. I just don't see it. Look, on the Crows front, The only thing that's really come out that I can see is an AFLW bit of news, and that's the retirement of Jess Foley. She announced her retirement today. She's concentrating on her career in medicine, which is obviously possibly driven by the current situation. And it's going to be a massive loss for the AFLW team. And I think it begs the question, and there's been a little bit of news and Twitter traffic around this particular topic, but this season, if it doesn't play out, there's going to be a few players, both in the men's and the female team, that have played their last game for the Crows.
Yeah, sadly, I think you're right. Perhaps not so much the men. I think that, I mean, unless you're possibly talking Bryce but I think most of the real sort of players that you thought would have been pushed into retirement have kind of been either pushed that way or traded out at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Unless there's somebody I'm missing, but I think that
DMAC,
the AFLW could maybe DMAC, yeah. But the AFLW, yeah, that's a different kettle of fish. You got a couple there. I see. Was encouraging to see Chelsea back doing some work. I did say, just get off topic. I did say, not that I'm the great aficionado on AFLW at Nick is, but I think I did say at the start of the season that was going to be a massive loss.
Yeah.
Massive loss.
And it turned out to be the case.
And I really think that we underestimated just what an important cog she is in that wheel. She is a really, really strong, as well as being a really strong player, she's a strong leader as well. So anyway, sorry, I digress.
No.
And Erin as well. So, I mean, how those, how they end up sort of coming back after having a year off, I don't know. It'd be difficult to say. But, I get the feeling that the competition is going to catch us up very, very quickly.
Oh, no doubt.
In fact, they probably have already.
Well, I think, we were very fortunate to have such top-end talent in our squad to begin with. I mean, Aaron Phillips, for everyone outside of South Australia, flew completely under the radar in those first few seasons. I mean, no one paid any real attention to her. They're all talking about, Daisy Pearce and all the rest of it. And well and good, they're the Victorians and we're in a Victorian-centric competition. But I think everyone in South Australia understood exactly what an acquisition Erin was. Having seen her, basically grow up with a footy in her hand, and the only reason she went to basketball is because she had no alternative, and she excelled in that as well. But there are others unsung, and Chelsea is a classic example. Just an absolute stalwart across half-back or through the middle. And I don't know whether we've necessarily got the same level of talent coming through now. We've seen Eb Marinoff possibly just sort of not taper, but I think maybe plateau. A couple of the youngsters look good, but they don't have that edge, that physical toughness that Chelsea and Aaron have. And it'll be interesting to see how quickly they can evolve that list and develop some new champions. And I suppose that's where we're at now with the AFLW. We're at the stage now where we're bringing in new talent, and that talent needs to be developed. Yeah,
that's right. And that was always, this was something that I used to bang on about ad nauseum for the critics of AFLW, and that is that the women that are playing now are pioneers. And, they were women that were playing, amateur, and they were thrust into the spotlight. And, they will never, ever reach the heights that their successors will, because their successors are now in elite programs, and they're in under 12s, under 13s, under 14s, and they're being coached, and they have pathways, and they are now, because of those women, are inspired to go and play in front of a crowd of 53,000 people in a grand final at Adelaide Oval. And so I don't know, every amateur club that I am in or around has massive young girl involvement. Incredible, the numbers. So anyway,
And that's where
They
the
will.
challenge is going to be, isn't it? With the level of coaching and the amount of resources that can be devoted at those junior levels.
Yep.
And whether we've got the resources in South Australia, because you'd imagine, we find it hard enough to get coaches over for the senior men's team. I doubt whether we're going to be able to source many coaches from interstate at that level in the female competition. So it's going to need a fair injection of good, solid coaching, and probably some ex-players, Pete, some ex-male players to come across and to actually take an interest in the female version of the game. There's a lot of investment in junior level in terms of infrastructure and getting clubs and teams up and running. But at some stage, they're going to have to turn their attention to quality rather than quantity, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And you would think with the amount of numbers, that should happen. Because it's like the men. I mean, as long as you're getting the numbers of young, athletic, coordinated, girls, then you're going to get that will really, really want to play.
Yep.
You're going to get the natural athletes. So hopefully that they will come through. I thought, just moving along, a quick interesting one I saw, Kane Cornes desperately trying to get the AFL relevant, saying that he thought that we should look at doing an early draft in 4 to 6 weeks' time. I don't know what that was all about. Did you see that? Jesus.
I tend to block out Kane.
The hell was he talking about?
I don't know. I mean, the only thing of interest that I saw about Kane the other day was some sort of a piece written by someone on Fox Footy or somewhere, or I can't remember where, and it was a fairly straightforward interview where he essentially admits that he's contrary and he's taken on a persona. He spends a huge amount of time on his social media presence to gain traction and to source ideas, and freely admits that he sources a lot of his commentary ideas from Twitter. And it was essentially an admission from Kane Cornes that you just can't take anything that he says with anything other than a grain of salt. And I don't doubt that Kane is a smart guy, and if you were to sit down with him over an orange juice and talk footy without all the other crap around it, he'd probably come up with some pretty reasonable sort of stuff. But
when he was in his early days, when he was coming up through the ranks at 5AA, he was a really enjoyable listen. And you thought, gee, this guy's he's going to be a really good, he's going to have a really good career in the media. And then, of course, he got signed by a Croc, with the charge to be the next Rucci, and just became a dickhead, really.
Yeah, he assumed he made a career choice. He assumed a persona, and that's it. Interesting, as DSG points out in the chat, he still has a penchant for, as his mentor did, for blocking people on Twitter. So, he is a little thin-skinned in that regard. But I don't think it's because... I actually don't think it's because it hurts him. I think it just doesn't serve his purpose. I think he's not interested in entering into discussion. He's a headliner. That's all he is, a headliner. He likes coming out with the big statements and then sitting back and watching everything sort of bubble along. So, an early draft, that's ridiculous. But it does beg the question, and I think Gil might have pointed this out during the week, that next season's draft, whenever that occurs, is going to be basically sight unseen. And my understanding is that all the recruitment staff as it stands today have been laid off. So all your scouts, all your feeders, all your information, intel getting in country leagues and whatnot, they're all gone.
Yeah.
And
there's no footy.
And there's
no junior footy.
But not only that, you can't even rely on ringing Hamish and saying, well, how did this kid go in under 16s? Because Hamish is probably going to say, well, employ me first and I'll tell you. You would think. There's just so many variables and so many things that are really not going to we're not going to be known until they pan out later in the season or later in the year. It's so difficult to speculate. Hi to Linda too, in the chat, chatting from Facebook. Good to see you.
Yeah, I haven't seen Linda Dunleavy before, so
No.
great to have you in the chat via Facebook.
If I'm not mistaken, she's a recent liker of the CrowCast page, so very good. Tell your friends. So, mate, I guess the other side of that coin is that there's probably a few blokes that are going to benefit from the layoff, and it might actually save their careers. And the bloke that I'm really thinking about is Riley Knight. You know, when he did his Achilles at the beginning of this, during the pre-season, you probably thought career over for Riley Knight because he would just get overtaken by other players. But this hiatus now gives him an opportunity to get himself right. It's really a 6-month injury, as we know. Gives him an opportunity to get himself right and put himself back in the frame.
Hey, great point, mate. And have a guess who's the other one that may really benefit from this? Would have to be Jordan Gallucci.
Well, that will depend on where his attitude sits.
Depends on Jordan, but if we just cast our mind back, he had that rocket from Mickey Godden, and you just wonder whether he got that just in time, and whether he will now have an opportunity to reassess and perhaps use this time to get his head straight. I certainly hope so.
Yeah, well, you would like to hope so because we need him. We need him up and about. It's as simple as that. He's exactly the type of player that we need in that midfield to be going well, and he's a number 1 draft pick. He's been in the system 4 years now. We can't have him just
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I have been too, as you well know.
You know,
I think you and I both have been a big
fans.
Yeah.
For Jordan, and for value for touches, he's an extraordinary player in what he can do when he's up and about and his mind's on the job. So I genuinely hope that that he can use this time to pull himself together and come back bigger and better next season.
Now, speaking of the midfield, Pete, and we're probably going to just jump around as things occur to us tonight. A bit of chatter, I think Twitter user Pete Nash raised an interesting point about our midfield, and it begged the question, and I don't think many people have actually taken much heed of this, but do you reckon that people have underestimated how much we're going to miss Cameron Ellis-Yeoman in our midfield, that big body?
Well, it's an interesting point that you make, and once again, you've picked a very, very safe topic insofar as it's one that we're both aligned on, both fans of Cam. And look, to be perfectly honest, I thought it was quite interesting last season. I think that it went up. I think this actually went under the radar a bit last season, and that is how well we were doing up until the bye, where we were. I think we were in the 8, weren't we? From memory, I reckon we were somewhere around there,
around the place.
And I reckon actually not far from the bye. I reckon we were 5th. I reckon we were 5th, maybe even 4th. We're in reasonable shape, and I thought that Cam was having probably one of the best seasons that he'd had, and I thought it was very, very interesting that he then got injured.
Yeah,
and we fell in a big hole. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that was the only reason that we fell in a hole, but I just sometimes think that if it had been, any other player that was playing in our midfield, if we were going pretty well and they fell away because of injury, if that had been Brad Crouch, let's just take it, if that had been Brad or Matt, and we were 4th or 5th and they'd got injured and didn't play for the rest of the season and we fell in a hole, what would people say? They'd say it's all because we lost this particular player.
That's right.
But because it was Cam, no one really wanted to draw that conclusion, which I thought was a bit disappointing. I thought that we missed him a lot more than what was ever discussed or written about.
Yeah.
And I think that absolutely we miss him in the midfield because he was a clearance machine. He was a first gather, first give, and I think that we really missed him.
Well, our first time out under real, under premiership round conditions, and we come up against a solid midfield with an absolute bull as its centrepiece in JPK. And we just didn't have anyone to go with him. And at various times we saw, Smith and Seaman and Sloaney and all that. They just don't have the body size. And Cameron Ellis-Yeoman is the perfect type of player to go against that sort of bloke, if only to nullify him. But Cam showed that he had the ability to get his own ball, and it didn't really matter the opposition. He was able to get his own ball, and I really do think that we miss that big body. And when you throw up numbers in terms of average size of midfields, ours is very, very small by comparison to the benchmark.
Well, especially when you're trying to usher in a relatively new midfield as well.
Look, I guess we may never know. Who knows what's going to happen on the other side of this? But my personal thought is that we'll miss CY more than what we thought we might have.
I'll tell you what, good. Just really quickly,
go
good exercise for the week, mate, is that I reckon if you went back and you had a look at the first 10 or so games last season and you did the numbers on his stats, I reckon his stats would look pretty good.
Yeah, no doubt. He was pulling good stats, 20 plus posies and clearances and all the rest of it. And not only that, what it does is it frees up other blokes.
That's right.
It frees up other. You don't have a seedsman going up against an inside ball, for example. So it has that knock-on effect as well. So it gives us first use. So I guess time will tell. Look, the other one I think who will benefit, obviously, is Tommy today, and I think Tommy. I didn't realise this, but he actually hyperextended his knee during the pre-season. Did you know that?
Yeah, that was why he ended up with a couple of week delay, or what was supposed to be a couple of in getting him back, because I think that the goal was always to have, because remember he did it in round one.
Yeah.
So the goal was for him to be ready for round one.
Yeah.
But then he had a couple of difficulties just in the just after Christmas, as I understand it. So that was a shame.
Yeah, I knew that. I didn't realise it was a hyperextension, which could have been bloody nasty. It could have very easily snapped that thing again. So he's definitely going to benefit from it. He'd be champing at the bit. I saw a tweet from him during the week saying he missed sports. I bet he does, because he's been sitting in front of that bloody computer screen on his phone on Twitter for the last 12 months. He'd be bloody losing his shit, I reckon.
Yeah, that would be disappointing.
So, there's a few people who might benefit and a few who might not. And there's, every team I reckon will be in the same boat. So when the teams eventually come back, it's going to be quite interesting to see whether they persist with their lineups and see how they go, or whether some blokes, just fade away because of this was going to be the last season anyway.
Well, it's a really interesting observation, I suppose. It will be an interesting observation, because what you're dealing with is that all of these guys they've spent their lives being conditioned to really train in a group, haven't they? And to be structured and all of those kinds of things. Now they've sort of dispersed. I mean, I read the other day that I think that most of our the guys that come from Victoria, they've all been released. They've all gone back to their families, and so everyone's now dispersed to the various parts of the country, and then it's now up to them within the confines of all of the new regulations that we face to keep themselves in shape. And it'll be interesting to see the ones that mentally can deal with that and come out okay, or whether you have some that just fall away a little bit in terms of their conditioning and just their general mental mindset.
Well, and here's the rub, Pete. They're still getting paid. So their pay's been cut because they're not playing matches, obviously, and that's a fair call. But they are still players on a AFL list that are getting paid 50% of their salary, which in many cases is still quite a good amount of money for sitting around in self-isolation playing PlayStation. So they have a duty to themselves and to the club that employs them to continue to train and to make sure that they're, at least pre-season fit when they come back. anything less than that would be under normal circumstances with a normal employer a sackable offence.
Yeah, that's right. It'd be interesting to see which ones get caught up sitting on Fortnite for
It's
for
not
however
Fortnite
long
anymore,
on their
mate.
PS4.
It's not Fortnite anymore. We've moved on from
No, it isn't.
Fortnite.
It is in my house.
It is in your house?
It's still
Yeah.
Fortnite. Yeah.
Look, my kid's gone back to Minecraft,
yeah.
for God's sake. Jesus.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it will be interesting, and it could actually, you wonder how much control the clubs have still got over the players under their contracts, whether they're touching base, whether they've set them programs, whether they're Zooming or Skyping or whatevering.
Zooming, everyone's Zooming.
Yeah, how much they've got to. Because all I've seen on Twitter is blokes taking it easy. We've got Sloaney surfing and, other blokes doing various challenges and whatnot. I did see one of the reporters tweet out that a couple of the Essendon blokes were hitting the tan pretty hard. But by and large, we haven't really seen much.
Haven't seen much. And the other thing, it just as you say that, I mean, and you look at all of the staff that have been put off and laid off, then, I guess what's it going to be? I guess it's going to be the head coach and whoever's left to monitor these guys. They're not going to be able to delegate it, are they?
Well, no, I don't think so.
Because they're on skeleton staff as well.
Yeah, well, that's right. So, and the one question I'd want to ask, and I haven't really heard anything, is did our culture guy get kept on?
Good question. I'm not sure. Anybody in the chat can help us with that one? I'm not sure.
Even, I mean, you would assume the assistants have been let go. You would assume that Haggis has been let go and the recruiting staff. You would assume that the heads of the departments have been kept. So your GM Footy Ops and Reed and those blokes have been kept. But I haven't heard anything about any of the others. Vardy's saying that Jackson's still there.
Yeah.
Which would be good because one hell of a bloody rude shock to come over to Adelaide and then just basically get the arse straight away. But we haven't heard a lot of the club in terms of who's left. The Twitter guy's still there. He's still tweeting like a mad thing.
Let me put this to you, just thinking about the club in its current state and the players all dispersed. What chance do you think there is that we actually get a season?
Well, I think the problem is going to be not so much what's happening in South Australia, but what's happening in the eastern states, particularly in New South Wales. And I don't think border restrictions are going to be lifted for quite some time. And don't forget, that was the catalyst for the AFL shutting everything down, was lack of freedom of travel. And, we've had the restrictions on movement since then, but even if the restrictions on movement are lifted, I think it's going to actually be a while before border restrictions are lifted. And you've got some states that have taken it upon themselves, like we were the first to go in South Australia, which is probably a good thing. WA were with us. Tassie also went pretty hard early. That's going to be the thing that stymies them. We've seen Gill come out and say that the players have agreed that they'll play in a season up until December. So they've given themselves as much time as possible. I don't know what sort of deal they're going to do with the cricket because, cricket are going to be wanting a bit of revenue when they come back on board, if things come back online. I can't see it, Pete. I can't see it, to be honest with you.
No. I honestly can't, Fiend, because interestingly enough, New South Wales doesn't have border control issues, but because no one wants to go there. Everyone just wants to keep the New South Wales people out. I think that surely, if we get to a point where, nationally there is not, we don't have any new cases, what are they going to want? At least, what do you think? 2-3 months on top of that?
Yeah, I think so.
So
I think so.
And you think, you look at what we've got now, 4,500, Well, how long is that going to? If we didn't get any new cases now, it's going to take probably 2 or 3 months for that tool to filter out.
Yep.
And then they're probably going to want another 3 months on top of that, just to make sure that they're in the clear.
Yep.
I reckon if we had almost no new cases, I reckon you'd still be looking at anything up to 6 months from now.
And I think the key indicator for that is the timing of some of the government measures. I mean, they've forward planned some of these measures to June and beyond. So they're obviously thinking that we're going to be in a state of some sort of restriction, for at least the next 4 to 6 months. That being the case, I just can't. The only possible thing that I can see, Peter, is if the situation stabilises in South Australia, and today's stats notwithstanding, we have been on a downward curve over the last couple of days. Would the SANFL start up again?
Possibly, or would the AFL jump at something like the NRL were trying to do, and that is to bring the AFL to, and just have it instead of South Australia, Western Australia?
Yeah, or have it in a couple of centralised locations. I think there's a case for the SANFL and indeed the Waffle if they have a similar positive experience over there. I think there's a case for the SANFL to start up. And given that they're all signatories to the AFL and the SANFL obviously need to generate some revenue, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing if the state leagues started up, because people will gag and go to the footy. I'll go to the SANFL quite happily if there's no AFL on. And it might be an opportunity just to pump some revenue back into the state leagues, which will then, mean that the AFL don't have to kick in quite as much. It'll give people some footy. We've got a team in the twos. It'll give us an opportunity to run some blokes through. I can see that happening after June.
What about something like that? If they had, I don't know, what if they had 6 teams in Perth, 6 teams in Adelaide, and 6 teams in Hobart?
Well, they
all
could
played
quite
each other or
easily
something
do that.
like that.
Or Northern Territory or something. They could quite easily do that.
Yep.
Or Alice Springs or something.
Yeah. And, could something positive come out of it, and that is that we don't play an AFL Grand Final at the MCG.
Play it at Traeger Park. No, it'd have to be at Adelaide Oval under those circumstances.
Yeah, no question.
Look, I think that they'll be looking pretty hard at doing something as soon as they can, and I think that they're open to thinking outside the square simply to generate coin. The fans will be up for it because they'll be gagging for football by then. If they can make anything happen this year, it'll be a bonus for them.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding the massive loan that they were able to get from the NAB ANZ consortium, any revenue that they can generate this year will be positive, and we know what Gillon McLaughlin's like. If he sees an opportunity, he'll take it. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Peter, I promised something on Twitter, and
I saw that. What was that all about?
Well, as soon as I hit send, I kind of regretted it, and I thought, nah, stuff it, whatever. A while back, and it was during a rap show, Pete, and I don't know whether you've listened to the rap very much, but Macca and I go pretty hard at each other.
I don't listen to the rap very much.
You don't listen to the rap very much?
No, I don't listen to the rap very much.
Bloody fired. Macca and I go pretty hard at each other, and it was after a game where we had been particularly inaccurate, missed a lot of shots, and missed some dollies, right? And I happened to make the statement that I reckon I could kick 30 goals in a row from 30 metres straight out in front. And Macca laughed at me, and I said that I'd prove it to him, and I never did. Pete. So I was thinking about that the other day, and then I was thinking about what we could do to break the monotony over the next few weeks. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a $50 KO voucher up, right? And I understand, and I did check the SA Health regulations before I put all this together. You are allowed to go to a playing field outside as long as you keep the 1 in 4 metre squared thing happening. I would like people over the next week to post up a challenge that they would like me to complete. The rules are it has to be a football related challenge, so it has to be something to do with kicking or handballing or marking or whatever. It also has to be something that they can do. So what I want them to do is take video themselves and upload it to Instagram or to YouTube or whatever and flick us a link. We'll feature it on our website. We'll collate them all together, and the best one, and yes, Vardy, no nudity, absolutely, no one needs to see that. The best one that will be chosen by the panel of CrowCast, I will try and match. Okay, so whether it's 50 shots in a row or 10 Eddie bets or I don't know, whatever, it has to be football related. It can't involve running because I'll have a heart attack. So no 10 400 metre wind sprints or anything like that. Keep it footy related. We'll choose the best one. You've got a week to do it. We'll choose the best one next Tuesday, Peter. And
sounds good.
Then if I can't beat it, that person gets a $50 KO voucher.
I like it.
So go your hardest. Upload to. You can either tweet it or you can upload it if you've got a YouTube channel, or everyone's got a YouTube channel attached to their Gmail account. Upload it to YouTube or upload it to Instagram. Flick us a link. We'll embed it in our website so we've got them all collated. People can see what everyone else is putting together. We'll highlight some of the good ones over the next few days on Twitter and on Facebook. You can also post it on Facebook. We'll come together next Tuesday. I won't have any say. I'll let you guys choose. Pete and whoever else we've got on that night, I'll let you guys choose what you want me to match. And that person, if I can't match it, which is highly likely because I'm a very old man, that person will win a $50 KO voucher.
Sounds good.
Are you going to put your money where your mouth is too, Pete?
I'll put it out to the legendary football player that we have in our house, which is not me.
Yes, do that.
I'll put it to Mr. 40 Goals from last year.
Do that.
And,
do that.
And see if he, because I've seen him, for an 11-year-old kid, I've seen him do some quite extraordinary things.
Yep.
On a footy field, so I'll see what he can bring up.
Yep. Now, this, because I've been chucking a few political things on Twitter and people have been hating on me for it, and I don't care, but this is a good opportunity for you to see me eat humble pie, people. So anyone listening that hates my guts because of my political views or just because I'm an obnoxious prick, now's your opportunity to see me make a fool of myself. I won't back away from it. So give it your best shot, but it has to be something that you are able to do, and so post up your videos and away you go. The other thing that's happening, Pete, and we're waiting for the 14th of April, where AFL Evolution 2 is launched. Now, AFL games typically are shit on video games. They're typically shit. But a couple of the reviews that I've seen, this one isn't too bad for a small development firm. It's obviously not NBA 2K. They don't have the budgets and all the rest of it. But AFL Evolution 2, it looks like it's got good mechanics, reasonable graphics. It's got season modes. It's got career modes. It's got all sorts of stuff. And as I said, what we'll be doing when that launches is that we'll be getting into that fairly hard because we need to create a season of our own, Peter, in replacement for the season that we're missing out on. So keep an eye out for that. I'll certainly be getting the game and hopefully challenging a couple of other podcasts. I'd like to be able to challenge Port Fan Radio, actually. Macra 19, if you're listening, I'd like to be able to challenge you guys to a game of Evolution 2. But certainly we'll be giving anyone that buys the game, we'll be giving them an opportunity to join our league and have a bit of fun, and we'll be streaming all that and giving something for people to watch. So look out for that in a couple of weeks' time.
Sounds good.
I don't know whether it's. I think it's 14th of April release, Matt. They pushed it forward a week. Yeah, 2 weeks to wait, I think. I don't think there's anything much else to talk about, Peter. Do you?
No, I reckon that's about it. I just have a quick shout out, and you have to excuse me because I can't remember the gentleman's name, but we had a really nice tweet from a fan in Halifax, Nova Scotia, in Canada, who was in isolation, and he was very kind to tweet us and thank us for the cast, and that he was enjoying a little bit of normality in getting a little bit of Crow's chat. And so I do apologise. I can't remember the gentleman's name.
Dan Matteo.
Dan Matteo. Good on you, Dan. Thanks for listening all the way over there in Nova Scotia, Halifax, and hope your isolation isn't too bad.
You know, and I say it now and again, and I know you do too, Pete, but it's bloody awesome. Just bloody awesome to hear from people on the other side of the world. It's just bloody amazing.
It is.
We've got a good following in the US, we've got a bit in Canada, we've got listeners in bloody Vietnam. You know, I mean, who knows? They're all expats, but it's great to see people hooking in. So g'day to all our international listeners. Some of you are probably doing it pretty bloody tough at the moment, and we've got to recognise that in Australia, whilst we lock down, you know, people in other countries, particularly in Europe and the US, are doing it pretty tough right now. So g'day
absolutely
to everyone in those parts of the world doing it tough. We wish you all the very best, and we hope that we can give you a little bit of a respite for half an hour or so by listening to us crap on about football.
Half an hour or so. Well, you know that Nicky or Macca aren't here. If that's
no. Well, see, we've cracked through this in 47 minutes, mate, and we have waffled.
Exactly.
So we've done a good job. But look, I reckon we might leave it there. What do you think?
Yeah, let's leave it there. Yeah, absolutely.
Very happy that everyone has been able to join us on Discord and on YouTube and on Facebook. Thanks very much for your ongoing support. We really do appreciate it. Get your entries in for the CrowCast Challenge, Stick It Up Phoenix Challenge, whatever the hell you want to call it. Pete, you get your lad to outdo me. I'll happily bow down to his greatness. But in the meantime, everyone, please stay safe. Don't forget, Discord is open on CrowCast. So if you are feeling a bit down or need to connect, get onto the Crows chat channel on Discord or hook up with us on Twitter or Facebook. Always happy to have a chat. And everyone take care, and we will see you next Tuesday for Tuesday Night Live.
Night, everybody. Night, Fiend.
Good night, mate.